Good afternoon, everyone. Hope that everyone's having a nice afternoon. And today I would like to look at the week that Jesus will pass that we remember during Holy Week. So I'd like to read a little story about that, and I hope that all of you enjoy it. In a little town called Bethany lived two sisters, Mary and Martha, and their brother Lazarus. Jesus visited these three often. They considered Jesus their best friend. One day, Lazarus became sick. "I don't think he's going to live much longer," said Martha to Mary. "Let's send someone to get Jesus," said Mary. "Surely he will help Lazarus get better." Jesus was in another town, and suddenly a man ran up to him. "Jesus!" "Yes, my friend. I am a friend of Mary and Martha. They asked me to come and bring you back to their house. Lazarus is very sick." "The sickness will not end in death," Jesus said. "He has become sick for a reason. This is a way to show the glory of God's power." But Jesus did not leave right then. He continued to do the Lord's work in the town where he got the message about Lazarus. 2 days later, he left for Bethany. By the time Jesus arrived in Bethany, Lazarus had died and had been buried in a tomb for 4 days. Martha ran out to greet him. "Jesus, if you had been here, Lazarus would not have died. But I know God will do whatever you ask." Jesus said, "Your brother will rise again." Martha did not understand what Jesus meant. "Yes, when we all go to heaven, Lazarus will be there in a new life." Jesus smiled. "I'm the resurrection. Whoever believes in me will live forever. Do you believe in me, Martha?" "Yes, my Lord, I believe that you are the Christ." Martha went into the house to get Mary. "Jesus is looking for you," said Martha. Mary got up and ran outside to see Jesus. Friends and neighbors had stopped by to comfort Martha and Mary. When they saw Mary running outside, they followed her. Mary cried. Jesus saw all the friends of Lazarus crying, and this made him sad. He cried too. "Where is the body of Lazarus?" asked Jesus. Mary and Martha led Jesus to the tomb where the body of Lazarus lay. "Remove the stone," said Jesus. "The glory of God will be shown through the death of Lazarus," said Jesus. The stone was moved. Jesus spoke in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" Mary and Martha could not believe it. Lazarus walked out of the tomb. He was alive. That night, Jesus celebrated with Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. "We all believe you are the Christ," they said. One day, Jesus and his close friends walked towards a town named Jerusalem. They went there every year at that time to celebrate a feast. Suddenly, outside the city gates of Jerusalem, Jesus stopped. He was going to send some of his followers ahead with a job to do. He said, "Go to the town. You will see a colt tied there, which no one has ridden. Untie it and bring it back to me. If anyone asks you why you are taking the colt, just tell them the Lord needs it." The followers looked surprised, but did as he asked. They ran ahead to find the colt. The followers went into the city. "Look," said one of them, "there's a colt tied to the house over there, just like Jesus said." "How did he know there would be a colt?" asked another. "Because he's Jesus," said another follower. So they untied the colt, and suddenly two young men walked around the corner. One of the young men asked, "What are you doing with our colt?" And the followers said, "The Lord needs it." So the young man said, "Fine, you may borrow it." The friends of Jesus returned with the colt. "It was just like you said, Jesus," the followers said. Jesus got on the colt and rode into the town of Jerusalem. Many people had come to visit Jerusalem that day for the feast. When the people saw Jesus riding down the middle of the streets of Jerusalem on a colt, they gathered palm branches and began to wave them in the air. Suddenly the crowds began to chant, "Hosanna, Hosanna!" And others started shouting, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." As Jesus rode the colt through town, the crowds cheered and they chanted for a long time. The followers of Jesus became a little nervous. "What's going on?" one follower asked another. "Why are these people making a fuss over Jesus?" One group of men stood behind the crowd and grumbled. They called themselves the Pharisees. One of the Pharisees said, "I've had enough of this Jesus. The people should be paying attention to us, not to him." So another one said, "Yeah, I know. We're the teachers of the scriptures. We should be getting that praise." So the Pharisees began to think of a way to destroy Jesus. The Pharisees gathered in the dark corners of the temple one evening. They had found a way to destroy Jesus. "Where is he?" asked one of the Pharisees. Another Pharisee said, "He said he would be here, so don't worry. He'll be here." Soon a follower of Jesus named Judas walked up to the Pharisees. He said, "I know where Jesus is. If I lead you to him, will you pay me?" And the Pharisees said, "Yes, 30 pieces of silver." Judas said, "Let's go." The Pharisees and some Roman soldiers followed Judas. Later that evening, Jesus and 3 of his friends, Peter, James, and John, went to the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus said, "Sit here and pray, and I'm going over there to pray." Jesus knew that Judas would betray him into the hands of the Pharisees. He came back and found the followers asleep. Jesus said, "Wake up, pray." And he went off to pray again, and when he returned, he found them asleep again. And then he woke them up again. Suddenly, Judas walked up from the shadows and kissed Jesus. The 3 friends and Jesus found themselves surrounded by angry Pharisees and soldiers. The followers became frightened, and they ran away, leaving Jesus to the hands of the Pharisees and the soldiers. The Pharisees sent Jesus to stand trial before the Roman governor Pilate. "I don't understand," Pilate said. "What has this man done wrong?" The Pharisees said, "He says he's our king. He says that he's God." So Pilate said, "I don't think he's a bad person." But as the crowd screamed for the death of Jesus, he finally said, "Okay, I will do as you ask." Soon Jesus was tortured and beaten. The Roman soldiers made him carry a wooden cross up a hill. On that hill, they stood the piece of wood up like a pole, and they nailed the hands and the feet of Jesus into the wood. Jesus hung from the cross in pain. He said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do." Then Jesus died. Some friends of Jesus took his body off the cross, and they buried him in a cave. The friends and the followers of Jesus missed him. They heard rumors that Jesus lived, but they were not sure what to believe. One night, the close followers of Jesus ate a meal behind locked doors. Suddenly, Jesus appeared to them out of nowhere. "Peace be with you," said Jesus, and the followers couldn't believe it. He then came again when they were one morning on the waters. And then we all are able to say, "Christ is risen, Christos anesti," as so many people have for thousands of years. We saw Jesus bring back Lazarus from the dead, come into Jerusalem, and following that, he was betrayed and brought to trial. And then he was put on the cross, and after 3 days, he was to be risen, giving all of us the ability to shout with all of our hearts, "Christos anesti," Christ is risen, and many, many thousands of people before us. Let us all have a blessed Easter, Kali Anastasi, and may the Lord's blessings and the glory of the Lord be upon each and every one of us.